Brian, what is your opinion on boosting Facebook posts? Is it valuable? Is it worth spending the money?
It depends on what you're boosting and how you boost it, because there's multiple ways of doing it. There's promoted posts, and that can happen from a business side. So it really depends on which audience you're trying to get a hold of. If you do it on the personal side, just a regular boost of a post for $6.99, more people see it, but it's, you know, the value of it. I can tell you this much, is we did boosting for this, and each one of the times we boosted it, it went out to about 10,000 people, which is a great number, but the engagement was pretty low. We only got like 20 people that did anything. Any kind of engagement, that means click, like, share. So, you know, and I've seen other people who have used it to sell products like books, where they've had much, much more success. So it really depends on the product, the audience, and you know, what your specific goals are.
I have something to add to that. So there are folks who test these things in a big, huge way. And in one of the most recent tests that I'm aware of, they found that there's a much greater ROI on the posts that you boost that end up as sponsored posts in the regular feed, as opposed to buying ads that are down the side, because there's a thing called ad blindness, right? So if we get ad, we don't look at that thing on the right-hand side. In addition, when you boost a post, it shows up as a sponsored ad, but it's in the actual feed, and if you're on mobile, those sidebar ads don't show up, but your sponsored post will show up in mobile, and it shows up looking like a real post, just like anybody else would have posted. So they come across as more credible, and they, depending on who your market is and what you're looking to do with them, and the things that seem to work better, based on the tests that I've done, are not driving people to a paid thing, but driving them to a free thing, drive them to content, which we just talked about the last time.
And always driving them to a specific landing page and not the home page of your website.
Yes, thank you.
Did you have a question?
I was wondering about LinkedIn, how valuable you think that is, because I joined that because we're supposed to. I've never posted a thing there, and every day I'm getting dozens of people wanting to link to me. I'm not quite clear about
Are
it.
you going to her class?
Oh, I'm going to the social media.
I just wrote a blog article a couple days ago about LinkedIn and your company page or your personal page showing up in search results if somebody actually does a name search. So if they search D. Reinhardt, or if they search my company name, Time to Market, my D. Reinhardt LinkedIn link will show up number 1. My About Me page on my website shows up number 2. My company page on LinkedIn shows up number 3. So my website shows up first, and then my company page on LinkedIn shows up number 3. LinkedIn's search algorithms are phenomenal. So if you have things optimized on LinkedIn, it'll help you with the organic search results, not with paid search results.
Any other questions?
Compared to like Facebook and Twitter, what's like the appropriate post for LinkedIn?
Business.
Business only.
Content. I could post on LinkedIn that I was here at this conference today, but that would be it. I wouldn't say what I had for lunch. So LinkedIn is the equivalent to your Rolodex and your resume. Facebook is the equivalent to your backyard barbecue. Twitter is like me and Felicia having a cocktail in the bar.
Whee!
And Google Plus is a combination.
And what did you say about Google Plus?
And Google Plus is a combination of all 3 of those.
Right.
For the tech heads who are there right now, I'm just saying.
In regards to Twitter, I feel like I'm struggling to make that part of my routine and my marketing campaign, more or less. And I'm also, one of the reasons I'm struggling is I feel like geographically, Twitter is just not as popular as maybe the West or the East Coast. And I'm wondering if that's just my personal opinion or if there's some substance to that.
That would be your personal opinion. So the question really is, how do I know where to spend my time, resources on social media? If your market is on Twitter and they're active there, then you want to spend time there. If your market is not, or if they're moving away from Twitter toward one of the other forms, then spend your time there. And we all have limited amounts of time. I mean, if you've got a budget and you can pay a social media manager or a specific Twitter manager, a specific Facebook manager, you know, I mean, because some budgets are that way and others are not. So it depends on your staff availability. That's easy to say. Anyway, the folks that you've got in your budget depends on what you can do. But as far as Twitter goes, there's a very active Chicago area market. And in fact, if you were to put Chicago or Aurora or West Suburbs in your profile, and not over and above the location, but actually in your profile, you'll get more people following you who are local, who are following Chicago people specifically, and then you follow their folks and kind of look to see who they're following. Next thing you know, you'll have an all West Suburbs, all Chicagoland, whatever Twitter feed you want to have, you'll end up with.
And on top of that, back to the Google side, with analytics, it actually will show you which social engine is driving the most traffic back to your website. So the key thing to look at there is do all three and see what's generating you the most traffic. And if it's Twitter, do more Twitter.
Over on this side now.
Dee, my sense is that recommendations in LinkedIn are nothing but smoke. Am I missing something in terms of the value of people recommending you for, in some cases, things you have no involvement with?
Okay, so here's the deal. There's 3 things that help you show up in search results on LinkedIn. The headline, the endorsements, and the number of keywords that you have in the body of your summary and your experience. So, if somebody finds you by searching a keyword and finds you, they look at your headline, they say, oh, wow. And then they look at your skills and endorsements and they say, oh, wow. Then they'll look at the recommendations and they'll say, oh, wow. And then it might help you move forward into getting that phone call, getting that email, getting that message from somebody. So recommendations are necessary. You have to have 3 to be 100% complete. And the more you have, like if Brian's got 15 about his current business, it's all better.
Explain the difference between endorsements and recommendations.
I believe I meant endorsements, I'm sorry. Endorsements are just click the button.
Correct.
This guy knows about bricklaying, and I had no involvement in bricklaying.
Correct.
I just did it because it was a button.
I was endorsed for cat herding.
There you go.
That would be close.
Well, what I just explained is the endorsements play heavily into LinkedIn search algorithms. So if you are not being endorsed in your areas that you feel that you want to be endorsed in, you need to work on that.
So there is that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I have a question on LinkedIn. I get messages all the time from people, and they're spammy, trying to connect, and hey, you should, check out our marketing service or our this or that. Let's say Brian wanted to connect with an HR person making a decision at a company to speak with. What's the best way to get his foot in the door in a non-spammy, non-annoying way through LinkedIn?
Typically through introductions. Because if I know that Brian's got a connection or Felicia's got a connection and I want to reach out to them, I ask Brian or Felicia, how well do you know so-and-so? And then I ask them to make the recommendation. If they don't have time to do that, you say, do you mind if I mention your name in my communication with that person? That way it doesn't seem quite as offensive. It warms up that cold lead. It helps you build into a relationship. And the one thing that I always say is, to get a recommendation, it has to be a first-degree connection. Don't ask for the recommendation in the ask to connect. And I've had people do that before. Okay.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. Would you tell the world that I'm amazing?
Anybody can take this question, but going back to what Brian said in the beginning, And I agree, and I know that there's a fine line here. I'm just wondering how we find that, and that if social media is not for advertising, but we all know it's successful in promoting events and selling some items, then where do we draw the line?
Social media advertising is effective. When you do it well and do it right, it is effective. There are lots of folks who'll teach you, they'll teach you that.
I don't mean social media. I don't mean social media advertising. I mean using social media as an advertising vehicle.
So you're saying everything in your tweets, everything in all your posts, everything is all, come to me, look at my stuff, I'm amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
10%.
You're saying what does work?
Yeah, 10%.
Yeah, 10%. Yeah.
70, 20, 10.
But I'm finding that for events and stuff, it's actually a little bit more than that. So is that excluding that type of, so event advertising and inviting and all of that is exclusive of what we're of social media
Well, I think
advertising?
it really depends on the audience that you're trying to communicate to, and I'll give you an example of somebody I know that is looking for a job is treating Facebook like LinkedIn, where he's constantly posting content, and it's on his personal page, so he's posting articles and all these other things. He's trying to use it as kind of an advertising medium to let people know he's looking for a job, but that's not what his friends want. So if you have a secure audience for your nonprofit already, and you already know, they know, like, and trust you, and you put up an event, that's going to be incredibly well respected, taken, shared, and all those other things, because those people are already pre-confirmed as friends of yours. If you try to do it to a general audience all the time, then chances are they're going to look at that as spammy and they're not going to pay attention to you.
Yeah, if you're inviting for a local event here in Aurora, you're inviting people in Atlanta and Dallas and California and France and all over the place. Like they will never look at any of your information, any of your invites ever. But if you're strategically doing things specifically for this event, I went through my list of folks from around the world and said, let's see who's in the area who might be interested to come, and I specifically invited those people.
Any other questions? No?
Dee, you had mentioned the 70, 20, 10.
Right.
Can you go off a little bit more on that and what exactly that is?
70% of sharing information, 20% of content of yours, basically, and then 10% promotion. So if you're promoting an event, like I went heavy on the promotion of this event in the past 10 days, just because. But if it's something that you're promoting, hey, buy my book, or hey, buy this, or hey, buy that, that's the 10% that you don't want to annoy people with.
And I think, in my opinion, I would say promoting as a speaker who doesn't, we weren't affiliates for this event or something, so that fits that 20%, like, hey, here's some really great content that you can go and consume. So even upping that a little bit was still not, this isn't mine, go buy my stuff, it's, I'm part of this group of other people who's going to be presenting this cool content, and I can't wait to learn from Dee, and I can't wait to learn from Brian, etc.
Right.
Well, speaking of advertising, something that you mentioned, you don't want to be so obvious as to send them back to your website, but you said you could send them back to like a page of your website. So that's being less obvious. Right. Is that the idea? Okay.
Do you guys want to talk about that, using social media and sending them to a specific spot?
Yeah, as far as Facebook goes, you have a lot more engagement keeping people inside of Facebook when you do things. The minute you start to take them outside of Facebook, it immediately feels like an ad. If you create a page or an event inside of Facebook and you're saying, hey, check this out, they click on it and they stay inside the Facebook environment because they want to go look at their friends' stuff too, you're going to get a much, much better response and a lot more sharing and likes.
And when it comes to Twitter, people on Twitter love to click. They love going other places. So you give them a link, but give them a link to somewhere that's going to give them more valuable content or something interesting.
Specifically what I'm talking about.
Right.
Check me out.
Yes, and Twitter's an interesting place because folks there are just as sensitive as Facebook and everywhere else about being advertised, marketed to in the stream. So if you follow that 70, 20, 10 ratio, they're much more forgiving about, hey, go buy my thing. I got a class, I've got a book, I got a program, I got a, we're having a special, whatever it is. And it also depends on your business. Some businesses can get away with it. For example, restaurants can be regularly posting, hey, this is our special tonight, we've got a % off coupon, hey, mention that you saw us on Twitter. I mean, so some businesses can get away with more promotion than other businesses, and it really just depends on your market and who you're serving and that kind of thing. But Twitter folks love to go off, and what we're talking about with a landing page is rather than sending them to, hey, here's my whole blog, or here's my whole website. On my site, I answer specific questions based on the long-term keywords. Help me out with that. Long tail, thank you very much. The long tail keyword search. So, and on those pages that are optimized for those phrases, I have specific videos that answer those questions that people are asking when they go to Google. And so then part of my strategy is now I've got that page with a video that answers that question, that has an opt-in to get something free that also talks more about that video, but they can see the video for free. So I will put that on Twitter and go, hey, did you see my answer to the question about blah, blah, blah? Or lots of people always ask me blah, 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 because then I use those exact keywords, and then I put the link that goes to my site that they can watch the video for free, and then if they want more, they can opt in.
I like that. And is that the same with Google Plus?
Yes, yeah.
So you like to click on things?
They like to click on things and go places. I have a question for Dee. I just recently learned about Pulse for LinkedIn. Could you share with the audience what Pulse is? Because I found it very valuable.
Pulse is the heartbeat of what's going on in LinkedIn. It's the news of the time. It used to be called Newsfeed, and now they've changed it to Pulse. But it's the hot topics of the day that's being shared across LinkedIn. And in some cases, it will change based upon the keywords that are in your profile. So for me, I would get more information about marketing than Tom might get about construction if he was still in construction. And so the Pulse is the news feed, and it will show up at the top of your
Newsfeed.
Profile?
your status, the status updates from all of your followers or your connections.
And very similar to that, you'll see now in Facebook, and this just happened within the last week, there's trending topics on the right-hand side, and then Twitter.
Trending. Yeah, they have the trending topics also. When you go to your page, there's a trending topics with hashtags and not hashtags, just people's names or events that are being mentioned over and over again.
Do they have trending topics on Google+?
Yes, they do. How would you guys recommend people tie those trending topics or celebrities or national events that are happening into the post on each specific platform? Do you have any advice or tips?
My suggestion is to always be very cognizant of what the event is. And especially if you have a post scheduled that might have improper ramifications. For example, you're part of the NRA and you've just scheduled a post for, hey, it's Friday, what's going on with the gun shooting? And there was just a major shooting in a school in some town. So you have to be very cognizant of what's going on. If it's a happy event, go for it.
You need to be with trending topics and trending events. If you can get on the early curve of those things, if you can be one of the first people talking about it, tweeting about it, posting about it, that tweet, that post, that's going to get shared a lot. And the more you get shared with other people, the more folks are like, wow, this person knows about this topic. This person is somebody who's up to date. This person who knows what's going on. So on my phone, I get news that comes in from local. I have WGN News app. And so anything that happens in the Chicago area, I get the news immediately as it's reported. Anything, and I've got a couple of national. I have CNN and Fox for everybody. And so keep MSNBC. I don't have that one, but anyway. So I have so whatever happens if a celebrity dies or a famous, like I was one of the first people to report when Zig Ziglar died. Zig and I shared the stage at one point. That was amazing and fabulous. And so and people were like, no, yes. And so I was at the early stages of that. So the earlier you can get on and jump on a news story and share that, the more likely folks will be to listen to you and watch you for that breaking news in your area, in your niche, whatever.
How about privacy issues in those free networks? I noticed that Facebook is obviously notorious that people break into Facebook. And I see those emails coming at me from friends, myself, etc., etc. What's the status today?
Well, the status is this, is a lot of those hacks come from two completely different directions. One is somebody opens up an email and they get access to specific things. They're actually copying your keystrokes when you sign in and things like that. But more readily what happens is people click on apps and they add an app to their wall. And it could be something, and I'll give you a perfect example, this is a true story, is my wife was screaming. And so I come running downstairs, it's like, what happened? And what happened was that she had pictures of naked roller skating girls on her wall.
Something to scream about.
She was screaming, yeah, so like, stop this, because it was broadcasting to all of her friends. And the way that she got that was because somebody had posted something about breast cancer with a link to it, and she clicked and liked it, and it downloaded an app so we basically had to go through and find the app and just delete it. So, I mean, privacy settings is an issue that you have to be aware of, but it's games and silly little things like that. Like, people constantly invite me to the birthday thing. I don't do that. It does it already. There's no reason to have that app on there. So, just don't add that. Games and apps are one of the things that cause the most problems.